So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of a conceptual explanation of what it means to drive a manual transmission and kind of, help you understand what it is that you're actually doing when you're shifting. So if you don't care for that and you just want to learn, I'll add a timestamp in the description so you can skip ahead. But for those of you that are interested, I'm just going to do a quick little explanation of how it all works and what you're doing when you actually shift. So for starters, this is the engine, right? This is what generates your power. This entire mass here, and you can't really see it, but somewhere back in there is the transmission. The transmission is also underneath of your center console here. In fact, it's right underneath this shift boot. And in a rear-wheel drive car, you also have your rear differential, which you can see right there. So just to give a super quick overview of what's in the car, we have underneath the dash, you have your gas, I'll let it focus, gas, brake, and clutch. This is pretty universal as far as I know. You operate these two with your right foot and this one with your left foot when you drive stick. Obviously, you also have your stick right here. Notice how mine is backwards because I am lazy, but this is your stick. When it's in this middle position, this is neutral, when you can wiggle it back and forth like that. In my case, this is first, this is second, this is neutral again, and then we have third, which is top middle, fourth, which is below that, and then fifth, which is top right. And then reverse, it's all the way over and back. And again, this is neutral. You got to give it the shakes to make sure it's in neutral. Okay, so now that we're getting out on the road, I'm going to explain a little bit about what each of the components that I talked about before, the engine, the transmission, and the rear differential, all do. So first, there's the engine, which obviously generates your power. And then the engine is bolted up to the transmission, which transmits the power from the engine to the rear wheels. Now the way that that works is it's basically a bunch of different gears, and you choose which two gears are meshing, and that determines, like, if the engine is spinning at this speed, then the transmission has to be spinning at another speed, And let's say you are just getting started, you want like maybe 3,000 RPM to correspond to, say, like, I don't know, 15, 20 miles an hour. In that case, you're gonna want to be in first gear. But if you're on the highway, you don't want to be revving at like 6,000 RPM. So that's why you have different gears. Lower gears are for lower speeds, and higher gears are for higher speeds. So you have your transmission, which is the thing here with the stick coming out of it. And then your transmission is connected to the rear drive shaft. The drive shaft is basically just a long stick that's bolted to the transmission on one end and the rear differential on the other end. And what happens is, as the engine spins the transmission then spins the drive shaft, and the drive shaft spins the rear differential. All the rear differential does, essentially, is connects to both of the rear wheels, and it takes the power coming from the transmission and uses it to spin the two rear wheels, which makes you move. And the clutch, which is the thing that you're actuating with the clutch pedal is in between the engine and the transmission. So the best way to think about it is basically you have the engine and the transmission, and you can think about the engine and transmission as two separate discs that are both spinning. And when these discs are connected, so you have your two discs. I shouldn't take my hands off the wheel, but you have your two discs. If they're connected, they have to be spinning at the same speed. But if your two discs are separated, they can be spinning at different speeds. So your engine is one disc and your transmission is the other. When you have the clutch pushed in, you're separating the two discs, basically putting the car in neutral while the pedal is in. Then, when you bring the two discs back together, they're going to be spinning at different speeds because they were separated. But since they're now touching each other, the friction between them means that they have to get to be the same speed. And basically, the clutch is that friction between the discs. Again, this is not quite how it actually works. This is kind of just an analogy for better understanding, but hopefully that helps you understand how it works. Now to talk a little bit about how to actually drive stick. So basically, your job when you're driving manual is to select gears, right? So your job when you drive a stick shift transmission is, instead of letting the car switch gears for you, you have to select the gear that you want to be in, and you have to shift into that gear. So in my car, it's a 5-speed. So first gear is the slowest and fifth gear is the fastest. Highest speed at least. So basically, what you do to shift, the basic procedure of shifting, I will demonstrate here. So I'm in 4th gear. I want to shift up to 5th gear. So I'm going to put the clutch in, then I'm going to move the stick from 4 to 5, and then I'm going to gradually and slowly let the clutch out, just like this. Easy, done. So the key to that is making sure that when you let the clutch out, that you go slowly, because again, if you think about those two discs, if you gradually bring them together, they'll have plenty of time to kind of get to be the same speed. But if you all of a sudden just slam them together, they're going to be going drastically different speeds, and all of a sudden they're going to have to change their speed super fast, which puts a lot of extra wear on your clutch. So it's important to be very gradual and measured with the clutch. The procedure for downshifting is very, very similar, except there's one extra step. When you downshift, the transmission is going to be spinning faster than the engine. When you downshift, the transmission is going to be spinning faster than the engine. So, what you have to do to speed the engine up is you have to blip the throttle. And all that means is you're just going to give the gas pedal just a little tap, just to raise the engine RPMs up so the transmission and the engine are going at similar speeds and the discs can come together a little easier. So I'm in 4th gear. I'm going to go down to 3rd gear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the clutch in, and then while I move the stick from 4th to 3rd, I'm also going to tap the gas, and then I'm going to slowly and gradually let the clutch out, just like I did last time. So if you listen to the car and the engine, you should be able to hear me blip the throttle when I shift. here we go. And now we're in third gear. You'll kind of get a feel for different cars as you drive them, but every car has a point when you're letting the clutch out where you can feel it start to grab. And what you want to do is you want to kind of let the clutch out until you hit that point, and then you want to hold it there, right at that grabbing point, for just a moment, and slowly continue letting it out. And then as soon as you feel it kind of connected, you can let it the rest of the way out. And again, that's the kind of thing that you have to just develop by feeling it. So yeah. The other difficult thing to do is starting off. It's one of the hardest parts of driving a manual car. So all you do when you start off from a dead stop is you put the clutch in, you move the stick into first, and then you put your foot on the gas and you kind of just feather the throttle as you begin to slowly let the clutch out. You'll have to give it more gas because you're coming from a stop, so I'll demonstrate that here. I'm going to slowly let the clutch out. I've got the clutch in right now. I have the stick in first, and I'm going to apply gas as we get moving. Now, it's important to not hover on the clutch too much. Just gradually let it out, and once you feel that it's grabbed, make sure to let it all the way out. If you leave it like half engaged, that wears your clutch out very quickly. So, okay, so I'm at a complete stop right now. My right foot is on the brake, but my left foot is just resting, not on the pedals or anything. Stick is in neutral. We're ready to go. So what we're gonna do first, always first, you put your left foot on the clutch pedal and you press it all the way in and you hold it to the floor. Then you take your right hand and you put the stick in first gear. For most cars, that's top left. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna let your right foot off the brake, move it to the gas, slowly get on the gas, and gradually begin to let the clutch out. You'll see the car start to roll, and you'll feel the clutch engage. Then you can let your foot completely off the clutch, and you're rolling. It's important to not just keep your foot hovering on the clutch, because you'll burn the clutch out that way. You'll basically have it to the point where our two discs are like just barely touching, so they can't get to be the same speed, so there's like extra friction going on, and it's just really bad. So now we're rolling in first gear. We accelerate a little bit. Clutch in, move stick to second, clutch out. Now we're in second. Easy. This is a small road, so I'm only going to go up to third, but we'll get up to third real quick. So we accelerate a little bit. Trust me, it sounds a lot faster than it actually is. We accelerate, clutch in, third gear, clutch out. Now we're in third gear. Now let's say I was feeling a little extra spicy today, and I wanted to downshift and pass somebody. What I'm going to do, I'm in third gear right now, I'm going to put the clutch in, flip the throttle, move the stick to second, and then let the clutch out. So, do that now. And now we're in second. Now the general rule of thumb, real quick, is that the higher you're revving, the more power you have, but the less fuel efficient you are. So if you're just cruising, you want to be in, fourth, fifth gear. If you have 6 gears, you want to be in 6th gear. You want to be revving around 2,000 RPM. But if you're on the highway or if you're at the racetrack and you need extra power, you want to pass somebody, you might want to downshift, because downshifting will put your engine at higher RPMs, which if you think about a horsepower and torque curve, that means you're higher on the curve, which means you have more horsepower and torque at that RPM. So yeah, that's the basics of how to drive stick shift. Again, I don't claim to be a professional. I don't even claim to be good at it, really. I just know how to do it, and I know that as cars veer more and more away from manual transmissions, fewer and fewer people know how to drive stick shift. So I wanted to make this video just as a way to give somebody an intro to doing this if you've never driven stick before, or if you don't know anyone that does drive stick. I would highly recommend, if you're trying to learn, find someone, anyone who can teach you the basics. Maybe rent a manual car for a day from a Hertz or something, and just experiment with it. It's definitely a lot more fun than normal driving. I will always prefer manual transmissions, but you know, it's definitely something that people who enjoy driving cars are going to enjoy a whole lot more than your average person. So, as always, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, or if if I'm doing this wrong, please tell me. I would love to answer any questions you guys have, and if anyone needs help or can't figure a part of it out, or maybe you have a funky transmission or something, let me know. I'd love to help you. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of little informational session. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback, please let me know. I would love to hear it.